1871, a bright young Scottish immigrant, Alexander Graham Bell, began teaching deaf children in Boston. Like Gallaudet, he had a passion and a mission to bring language to deaf people.
Nature inflicted upon the deaf child with one flaw, one little flaw, imperfect hearing. But we deny him speech by not teaching him to speak.
Society in general views Alexander Graham Bell as an American hero, as the inventor of the telephone. He was famous, wealthy, and influential. His wife was deaf. His own mother was deaf. He was always associating with the deaf community. He was a teacher of deaf children at a day school in Boston. He was very familiar with the deaf world.
Alexander Graham Bell is a very important figure in deaf folklore. He offers an antagonist perspective because he's like the boogeyman. And even though he's a great man in his own right, he did put forth the idea that a life without signing would be a better life.
Bell thought that signing prevented deaf people from learning to speak, so he was against deaf people using sign, their natural language. Bell believed that sign language marked them as different and kept them in the lower classes. He believed that earlier in the 1800s, sign language had been their only recourse. But now, there's a better choice, the technology to teach them to speak and lip read. The oral method.
Bell thought over 100 years ago that if every deaf child received the right type of education and the use of the right technology, that those children could learn to use spoken language.
Oral schools for deaf children opened in the late 1860s. They did not teach sign, and in fact, outlawed its use. Instead, they began speech training, teaching deaf children to generate sounds, to mimic the mouth shapes and breathing patterns of speech. And if children knew what speech looked like, the oralists thought, they could learn to read lips. This was an idea that divided educators of deaf children, and it still does today.